Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Lee and I love to make videos on fitness, travel, and lifestyle. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that we can be friends. I'm so excited about the video for today. So I was inspired by Backpacking Bananas like many years ago. She did this video where she had a scratch map and she scratched off all the places that she visited, and I thought that video was so cool. But at the time, I had not traveled to a lot of places. I didn't even have a scratch map. There was a lot of steps that needed to take place before I can make this video. So one of my friends gifted me a scratch map a couple of years ago, and I just never felt like I had the time to actually sit down and film the video. But today is my lucky day. I know a lot of people, especially my friends and family, they love to hear about my travels, and I have never just consolidated it all into one place, and so today's gonna be that day. So it's gonna be a little bit of a long video. Hopefully you guys find it interesting. Of course, if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below and we're gonna get started. So snuggle up, grab you some snacks. I have one of my favorite blankets, and hold on one second. Have y'all tried this yet? So like Snoop Dogg released this adult beverage line and it is so good. So, you know, we're gonna sit down and pour it up with the girls and fellas tonight. Sip a little bit of bubbly and let's talk about the places I have visited. So just a small disclaimer before we get into this video. I live in the United States and I used to travel for work, and so I have been to a number of states. So I'm just gonna stick to like the pivotal states that just made a big difference in my life, the places that I've lived, and we're mostly gonna talk about different countries that I've visited in this video. Without further ado, let's get into it. So of course, starting off at country number one is the great US of A. So I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1992. It is a great place to visit if you guys haven't already. They have a big baseball culture there. They are right on the water. So in 2010, I turned 18 and I went away to college in Tennessee. And so it was a very small college town. The largest city was 2 hours away, which was Knoxville. My town had one Walmart, one McDonald's, one Kroger's. It was very small and the main focus was on school. And so one of the good things that came out of that school is that I ended up becoming a Ronald McNair Scholar. And so what that is an undergrad program that helps low-income people get to grad school. And so that was a great opportunity for me because at the end of that internship, we ended up going on a trip to DC, and that was the first time that I visited. So at the time, I just thought it was a random couple of days trip to DC. We toured a couple of colleges here, Gallaudet, George Washington, and maybe a couple of others that I don't even remember because I had no interest in going there. So after I graduated undergrad in 20, I ended up moving to DC to accept a position. And if you guys haven't heard like my story of moving to DC, I absolutely did not want to move here. I came here kicking and screaming, but it really ended up setting off the trajectory of my life and of course my travels. So I accepted a position, and the job that I accepted, I actually got to travel a lot for work. And so one of the first places that I went with my job was to California. And that was the first time that I had ever traveled by myself. And so I really think that it set the tone of like, you know what? I can do this. This wasn't that bad. This was beautiful. I researched different things to do in the area on my off time. And so I think it really just set in motion that, hey, I can do this by myself. And so in 2015, I took my first big girl trip, which was to Hawaii. And this was actually a work trip, and because it was a work trip, I actually was able to afford for my brother to come along with me. This is still one of my highlights of my life. To be able to go to Hawaii, and then not only that, be able to bring my brother with me. I was there for a couple of weeks, and over the weekend I had a lot of downtime. And so we were able to go on tons of hikes. We went to our first luau together. We tried so many different foods, purple potatoes. It was just a great all-around experience, and it was no better person to share it with than my brother. And so after that trip in 2015, I kind of caught the travel bug, and so I started planning my first international trip with my sister. And this is so crazy when I look back on it because our first international trip was to Dubai. So we saved up all of 2015 in order to be able to afford this trip to Dubai. It was like a huge trip. And believe it or not, we actually booked that trip off of Groupon. So I don't even know if they still do trips, but I used to book a lot of my earlier trips on Groupon. So we booked the trip on Groupon. We went in February of 2016, and y'all, it was awesome. And so we actually were able to stay in Dubai for a week. And so while we were there, we did so much stuff, y'all. Like, we stayed in a really beautiful hotel. We went to the biggest mall in the world. We went to the biggest building in the world. We went to the spice markets. We rode camels. We did sand bashing, which was absolutely insane. Like, I don't even know if I would do sand bashing to this day, but y'all, I was young and we was trying it out. So this was a great first experience for us traveling out of the country. We went to some beautiful mosques. We actually took a day trip to Abu Dhabi. We did so much things. The only bad thing about this trip is that my SD card got corrupted, and so I barely have any pictures of the trip. I think my sister has some. If I'm able to find some, I'll put them in here, but I wasn't YouTubing yet. I wasn't doing Snapchat yet, so I just had this really small, like, you know, digital cameras. Was they new? I don't know if they was new, but they was new to me, y'all. And my SD card corrupted and all of that stuff is gone. But, you know, I have the memories up here and in here. It was a great trip. So in the summer of 2016, I decided to take my first solo international trip, which was to no other place than Mexico. And so this was my first solo trip, and so many people was putting like all of these crazy thoughts in my head. I swear, it seemed like every other day my mom was sending me these crazy articles about how people were getting kidnapped in Mexico and the cartel was crazy. People at my job was telling me there was like this flesh-eating bacteria in the water and the water's not safe. But I still booked the trip, y'all. And so when I got there, I was so scared. I was so scared. I had let their thoughts get in my head. And so the first few days that I was there, I stayed at a resort, but the first few days that I was there, I literally went from my room to the beach to get food, back to my room. I didn't really explore the resort. I didn't really like talk to people while I was there. I just kept my head down, went from room, beach, food, back to the room. And so I don't know what came over me, but my last day on the resort, I said, you know what, Lee? You need to go do something. You need to get your money's worth. You need to leave this room. And so I ended up booking myself an excursion. To this day, this was the best day of my life. And so on this excursion, I went snorkeling for the first time, and I saw the most beautiful, most stunning fish that I've ever seen in my life. And actually, I remember that I was snorkeling, and I just remember tears running down my face because I was just so happy and so amazed at what I was seeing and just feeling so blessed in that moment. And so after I went snorkeling, we went on this ATV ride through the jungles of Mexico. They fed us. I just had the best time of my life. The best time of my life, you guys. And I think that that just goes to show not to let other people put their fears onto you. Because if I let everyone just keep these thoughts in my head, I would have never experienced this. And I strongly believe that my travels would have just stopped there. I would say if you really want to do something, don't let other people's fears get to you, just do it. And so later on that year, I visited my third country, which was Canada. And specifically, I visited the city of Vancouver. Vancouver is on the west coast of Canada. It was absolutely beautiful, you guys. And I know I'm gonna say that a lot, but it really was. I had a great time. So I did some hiking while I was there. I partied while I was there. And it's so funny because I went there for a half marathon, and the night before the half marathon, y'all, I was partying. So I did like a small bar hopping, and I was by myself, y'all. I just did like a small bar hopping. I met this girl that was there, and literally at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're dancing the night away. We're taking shots. I'm having a great time, and literally in like 4 or 5 hours, I had to get up to run a half marathon. So I ran that half marathon on like 3 hours of sleep, and still, that is one of the fastest races I have ever ran a half marathon in my life. And so looking back on that, I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, that was so crazy. But man, what I would give to just be young again. Young people can do that. I couldn't dream of doing that now, but I had a great time. So moving into 2017, I I don't know what I was on, y'all, but I was crazy. I did so much travel in 2017. I don't know. I definitely look back on that and I was just like, oh yeah, you were going through something, and it shows, because I was just like on this YOLO mission. So I started off the year in 2017, my birthday actually. I went to Barbados, my 25th birthday, had an absolutely stunning time. If you guys have never been to Barbados, definitely put it on your list. This was my first country that I visited in the Caribbean, and it did not disappoint. Everyone that I met was super nice. It didn't rain a single time that I was there, actually, which is pretty odd for the Caribbean. But you know, maybe Barbados is just one of those places. It was perfect weather the entire time. I actually took some pictures. I'm gonna see if I can find them. They literally look like a postcard. Like, it doesn't even look like I took it on my camera. On my phone at that, right? And so if you guys do plan a trip there, make sure that you're there on a Friday. They have a huge fish fry where you can try dolphin, flying fish, which I ate tons of while I was there. I also did a horseback riding tour while I was there. That's when I found out that although I love horses from afar, y'all, them animals is big. Like, I was scared. So my tour guide was nice enough to just hold the reins of my horse in his hand. So it was a very slow paced walking horse tour. So for my 25th birthday, not only did I celebrate in Barbados, but I also took my first cruise literally a month later with my best friend, TT. Hey girl, hey. So we did the Run for Fun cruise, which is a running cruise. It's a runcation, y'all. And if you're new to this, don't worry, y'all, I'm true to this. I'm just playing. But pretty much a run cruise is where you take a cruise with a whole bunch of other runners, and every port that y'all stop at, you run some type of race. And so Run for Fun put together a really nice race. We cruised the Caribbean, and so we went to Honduras, and they had like this obstacle course race there. There was a scavenger race on Cozumel. We did like a 5K, I think, on Costa Maya. It was just a really nice, well put together runcation. And so although I went to Mexico already, I'm gonna count Honduras as the next country that I visited. So although I had visited Mexico, the Cancun area, this time around we visited Costa Maya. Something that stood out about this trip is that me and Tiara decided to go on a parasailing tour during our stop at Costa Maya. And y'all, it was batshit crazy when I look back at it. This tour guide came in like this really small, I would dare to say rinky-dink motorboat. And he picked us up and we went out to like the middle of the ocean, and what I was picturing parasailing was gonna be like was just not like that at all, y'all. Like, the boat was so small, and I would say it was about 7 or 8 of us on the boat. And y'all, I'm surprised that the boat didn't just sink right then and there. It was too many of us on the boat for the size of the boat, and I thought that there was gonna be like some, you know, mechanical instrument that was gonna like lift us up in the air and all this stuff. Y'all know, like, there was a rope, and this man was literally like just taking a rope and just tying it on to like this hook on the side of the boat. So all of like the consent forms that they gave us was in Spanish. He was speaking all Spanish to us. We couldn't understand nothing. We signed the waivers, and then up and away we went. And so I remember trying to communicate with the tour guide in English, because y'all, I was scared as shit. I remember trying to communicate with this guy, and he was just speaking Spanish. And then like right before we went up in the air, I was like, you know, excuse me, am I hooked in? Like, can you ensure that I'm hooked in correctly? And he said something like, no, I think I forgot. And then boom, I went up in the air. So I think he was, well, I know he was definitely joking with me, because nothing bad happened to me. But y'all, so I think parasailing in Mexico is a one and done for me, y'all. I lived to tell the tale, but I don't need to do that again. And so later that summer, me and a few of my siblings were able to celebrate my oldest sibling's 40th birthday in New Orleans. And y'all, a time was had. We stayed in this really nice Airbnb. We walked around Bourbon Street. We partied, of course. I tried snails for the first, and I think only time. I actually like this, so I would go back and I would try snails again, or I would even try snails somewhere else if they were on the menu. But this particular dish, the snails were in cornbread, and it actually was pretty tasty. So NOLA was a great experience, and what made it even more special is that I was able to experience it with some of my favorite people in the world. Ooh, y'all, I've been doing some talking. Let me take a little sip. So later that fall, I went to Europe for the first time with my little sister, and the country that we visited was Portugal. So we specifically stayed in Lisbon, but we did take a kayaking tour in Sintra. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And that tour was so pretty, you guys. And so the kayaking tour was really cool because they picked us up from our hotel in Lisbon. We drove in like this caravan to Sintra, and there was a few people from like all over the world. I remember some people from Australia specifically. And so we took this caravan type of thing over to Sintra. They provided all of the kayaks, all of the equipment for us. And then we kayaked to this remote beach, and it was absolutely beautiful, you guys. So we had lunch on this remote beach. On the way back, we got to tour some cool caves along the way, and it was absolutely just a 10 out of 10. So I would highly recommend it if you guys are in Lisbon. I actually went in October, so the weather had to be pretty good if we went kayaking in October, and it wasn't cold. So me and my little sister really got to explore Lisbon. And then at this time, this is when I first started vlogging for YouTube. And so we got to see a lot of the cool sights. We tried a lot of the local dishes. One thing that really stood out to me is that one of the locals recommended that we try this really good seafood place. We went to the seafood place, y'all, and they didn't speak any English, but they did have this iPad that you can order from, and you can change the menu to English. So even with the translation into English, we had no idea what we was ordering, y'all. And so we ordered some type of crab dish, and when we got our food, it was like super cold. Like it was like a soup, like a crab soup, but it was cold, like seafood salad. It was just very, very different. And on top of that, y'all, when we got that bill, to this day, this is probably one of the most expensive meals I have ever eaten in my life. I don't know what made it so expensive, but thank goodness for credit, because otherwise we would have been washing dishes, y'all. It was bizarre. But we did get to experience the nightlife while we were there, and of course, I also ran a half marathon. So that was my first half marathon that I ran in Europe, and it was still to this day the hardest half marathon that I have ever ran in my life. So next I went on yet another solo trip to Carousel. So this was my first time in like the Southern Hemisphere. If you don't know where Carousel is, it is right off the coast of South America. It is a part of the ABC Islands. So it is a Dutch territory, so they speak Dutch there. I did a really nice hike there, so Christoffel Mountain. That was really nice. I actually met this girl that I had been friends with on Instagram. She also liked to travel and run half marathons, so we ran the Carousel half marathon there. This was a really cool experience for me because although I traveled there by myself, this was really like my first time meeting other people who travel and run races. And so I ended out this year with a Christmas trip to Mexico, and what made this one so exciting is that I actually got to go with my mom. The next trip I took was Memorial Day 2018, and it was to Banff. And the reason I remember that so specifically is because Memorial Day is like a celebration of summer in the US. It's like the first summer holiday where the pools are open and people are just excited about summer. Well, I went to Canada and it was snowing in Banff. At the time, no one that I knew had ever been to Banff or have ever heard of Banff, myself included. And so I actually found Banff through Instagram. Like I saw it on Instagram and I just thought, oh my gosh, this place is so beautiful. I wonder if it looks like that in real life. And so you guys know I love outdoor activities. I like hiking. And at this time in my life, I had just recently lost my grandmother. I was going through a really hard time in grad school. And so I just really wanted to get away. I wanted to be in nature. I wanted to journal and just hike and just be by myself. I got to hike. I got to self-reflect. I saw Lake Louise. I saw Peyto Lake. And I spent hours out there journaling. And on my way back from Peyto Lake, I discovered Johnson Canyon, which was absolutely stunning. I saw tons of waterfalls, and it was just the come back down to earth moment that I needed, the be one with nature moment that I needed. that I was just really craving and desiring. And so Banff is just definitely like a highlight for me. I absolutely loves it. And so fall of 2018, I took another trip with my bestie TT, and we went and explored Amsterdam. And so we took an overnight flight to Amsterdam, and y'all, we hit the ground running. So Amsterdam actually has a place at the major train station where you can just lock up your luggage. So we locked up our luggage and we went to a market. We had breakfast. We just did a whole bunch of sightseeing before we even like took a nap and checked into our hotel that we were staying in. So we had a ball in Amsterdam, you guys. So we actually went to Amsterdam for ADE, which is Amsterdam Dance Event. Hands down, if you guys get a chance to experience, I definitely would recommend it, especially if you guys like house music. And it just so happened that the Amsterdam Dance Event was taking place the same weekend as the TSC Half Marathon. And so we got to experience the best of both worlds. We partied, and then we also, you know, was on our health kick, and we ran that race. And so what I thought was so cool is that we went to our first rave in Amsterdam, and everything that you have heard about Amsterdam, y'all, is true. So there are tons of museums in Amsterdam, a lot of great food in Amsterdam. It's very, very pretty with the canals. If you get a chance to visit, you definitely should. So at the end of 2018, I closed out the year with another Christmas trip with my family to Mexico. And what made this trip extra special is that my brother was able to attend as well. So it was really nice to have all of my cousins, my aunts, my uncle, my sibling. It was just a really, really nice family trip to close out the year. And so what's really nice about the family trips is that my cousin typically plans them, and y'all, she don't miss. Like, the resorts that she be picking, they be nice. And it's really nice that I don't have to plan it, so it's a really nice relaxing vacation for me as well. And so after that family trip in December of 2018, I didn't travel again until the summer of 2019. I don't even think I went to visit my family. I was in the midst of writing my thesis. I was having such a hard time, you guys. I just had to focus. And at the time, it was so rough for me, y'all. Working a full-time job, working a part-time job, going to grad school is not for the faint of heart. Only the strong will survive. So I was literally driving from work, driving to school, sleeping in my car, and then like, cause I had to like do my thesis. I didn't have a computer, y'all. So writing my thesis, I had to go all the way to my school because the library where I lived at closed too early. So in order for me to work 24 hours, I had to work on a computer at my school. So y'all, I was literally going from work to my school, sleeping in my car, and then like driving home, showering, and then like going to work. I was miserable. I was miserable, but I finished. So I graduated from grad school in the summer of 2019, and I decided to treat myself to a luxury vacation, you guys, and it was chef's kiss. So I went to Jamaica, and I have no pictures, barely any pictures of that trip, because I just relaxed, you guys. I sat on the beach every day. I drank pina coladas. Like, I had a person that would come and like bring me drinks on the beach. I had a jet tub in my room. Like, I splurged and I showed out for myself for that vacation. And I feel like I earned every single bit of it. So yeah, I probably won't have a lot to show you guys, but the summer of 2019, I graduated and I took myself to Jamaica as a graduation gift to myself. And looking back on it, I'm so glad that I did that, because we all know what happens next. So we actually did not take a family trip with my family that year in 2019. And then of course, 2020, the world shut down and there was absolutely no traveling, or at least not for me and not for none of my family. So for all of 2020, I just stayed in the house. And so I did not travel again until the summer of 2021. And at that time, y'all, I was sick and tired of being in the house. I was so tired of being in the house. I had the travel bug bad, but at the same time, I was still very, very scared to travel. I was scared of getting COVID. And so in summer of 2021, me and Cam went to Antigua. And so I really felt like this was the perfect vacation to get our feet wet right after COVID, because the resort that we stayed on was pretty small. I want to say it only had like 40 rooms in it or something like that. I might be mistaken. It might even be less than that, like maybe like 25 rooms or something like that. But at the time that we went, it wasn't even completely booked out. So there was maybe like 5 to 10 other couples within the whole resort. So we pretty much had the resort to ourselves. It was absolutely perfect. And because of the restrictions that was going on at the time, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we were unable to leave the resort at any time. So even, this was when they were still having like required for you to take a COVID test before you re-entered the US. And so they actually had a service where they would come to the resort and do the COVID test there. So you didn't even leave the resort in order to do that. So this was the perfect place for us to like kind of see how travel is gonna be after COVID. And y'all, that was actually the only place that I traveled in 2021. And so I'm so glad that I went, because it's something about the sunshine. It just makes me so happy. It's something about a beach and that salt water that just makes me happy. And so I feel like after going through like the hard 2019 that I had, and then the tragic 2020 that we all had, 2021, I just really needed that like uplifting moment. And so I'm really, really happy that we were able to go to Antigua, and it was so pretty. Like, I would highly recommend that if you guys are looking for like a really low-key vacation. So in 2022, Cam gifted me for my 30th birthday the best gift, like the best gift. He gifted me a country hopping trip to Europe, and that was our first time in Europe together. We had such a good time, you guys. So we spent 16 days in Europe, and so the first country that we visited was Lisbon. I had already been to Lisbon before, but it was really nice to show him like all of my favorite places. And then of course we experienced new places in Lisbon together. And so then next, after Lisbon, we went to Spain, and that was both of our first time in Spain. We went to Madrid, and oh my gosh, I love Madrid. It was really, really pretty. We went to the botanical gardens. We saw a ton of art museums while we were there. But my favorite part of the Madrid portion of the trip is that we did this wine and tapas tour, which was so much fun, you guys. I highly would recommend it. And then after Madrid, we took a train to Barcelona. And then in Barcelona, we saw the La Sagrada Familia. We did like a boat tour in Barcelona. I had the best meal of the trip in Barcelona. It was at a place called Eat My Trip. Definitely would recommend. That was so, so good. And so after Barcelona, we took a flight over to France, where we experienced Paris. And so we saw the Eiffel Tower during the day and at night. So you have to see both. We took a tour of the Louvre. Oh my gosh, that museum is huge. Walked the shopping district. It was a lot of fun in France. And so then after France, we took a flight over to Germany, where we explored Munich. Now, by the time we got to Munich, we were so tired, y'all. So, and it was like, so the signs in Munich, I can't understand. So throughout the trip, we were really diligent in making sure that we like looked up and learned a few phrases in each language. In German, y'all, it takes a very gifted, crafty person to learn German. Like, it was so hard, you guys. But despite the language barrier, everyone that we ran into and we asked for directions were super, super nice. And Munich really reminded me a lot of my hometown of Cincinnati. And so we actually really enjoyed ourselves in Germany. So we walked around this beautiful park. I couldn't tell y'all for the life of me what the name of the park was, because it's just a very hard language, you guys. And everything, all the words look the same. And so I'm so, so sorry, so sorry. But it was a park where you could surf inside the park. So they had like this live stream with like free flowing water where you could actually surf there. And y'all, it was a lot of naked people in that park, but it was gorgeous, like tulips everywhere. We had schnitzel for the first time. I started drinking beer there. So of course you gotta go to Germany and try the beer. I was not a beer drinker before we went to Munich, but I had like a Radler that was really good. I just really enjoyed my time there. So I would definitely plan to go back. Hopefully I can go back during Oktoberfest. I definitely feel like that would be a time to be had. And so Munich was the last stop of our country hopping tour of Europe for my 30th birthday, which was, I had a great time. I had a great time, and I definitely acknowledge that I have some great people in my life. Like I have people who really love me and appreciate me, and I definitely do not take that for granted, you guys. I'm very blessed and very, very grateful for the opportunities that are given to me. So at the end of 2022, my family felt more comfortable traveling again, so we kind of picked up our Christmas trips. And so in 2022, we went to Dominican Republic, and y'all, Dominican Republic left some things to be desired. Yeah, I feel like I was gonna starve. I got bit up by so many mosquitoes, and I actually ended up getting a respiratory infection, and so that has nothing to do with the resort or like anything to do with like Dominican Republic. It's just that I get a respiratory infection every year. I have no idea why, but in 2022, I actually got sick on a trip. And so for 2 days, I don't even think I left the room, y'all. Like I was sick. And then I got bit up, like just completely devoured by the mosquitoes on the resort. Y'all, Dominican Republic ain't never gotta see me again. If y'all have been to Dominican Republic and you enjoyed your time there, leave me a comment down below of like what resorts you stayed at, what time of year that you went, because I would be willing to try it again. But for the most part, Dominican Republic ain't never gotta see me again, y'all. So in 2023, I had the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, I cannot roll my R's, but Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was like the breath of fresh air that I needed. It was nice to just feel the sun on my face, go to the beach, and I actually met a friend while I was there. And so one night I went to dinner and I met my friend P. So if you're watching this, hey girl, hey. And so I met P in Puerto Rico. I was on a solo trip. She was also on a solo trip, and we just instantly clicked. So literally that night we went out partying to some random place, random place that I had never heard of, but I guess she had received some recommendations for. And so we went partying at like this very like local, in the, I don't want to say in the trenches, but it was definitely not touristy at all. So it was a very local, popular place, and it was a ton of people there. The next day we went to the beach, and then we went to dinner, and then we went partying again. And so this time we hit Old San Juan. Y'all, chef's kiss. We had such a good time that night. So we was just bar hopping on the strip in Old San Juan, and we literally danced the entire night away. We had such a good time. We just had an absolutely fabulous time together. And a year later, you know, I'm just foreshadowing a little bit. A year later, she actually came to DC, and we had a great time in DC. So yeah, if you're watching this, P, I definitely need to make it out to Boston so that you can show me around. But yeah, I had a great time with you in Puerto Rico. And so later that year, I took another solo trip across the pond, and I went to London. And so one of the highlights of that trip is that I went to a restaurant, I believe it's called Park Row. I actually don't think that they're in business anymore, but if you had a chance to see it while they were in business, I would rate that restaurant a 10 out of 10. Like, it was pretty much dinner and a show. It was Batman Gotham theme inspired. And so they had like this secret door where you like pull this book back, and then this, you know, secret passageway opens. It was just a 10 out of 10. Like, you guys definitely have to check out the videos. I don't think that it's open anymore, unfortunately. And I'm so grateful that I got to experience it while it was open. But anyways, while I was at that restaurant, I actually met a couple. And so after that restaurant, we went and sat out like at the bar area, and I started talking to the girlfriend, and you know, we was just vibing or whatever. And so we ended up deciding to hit the town. And so she took me to this karaoke bar, which was in walking distance. I believe it was called Archer. I had so much fun. Like, the most randomest things be happening to me, and we ended up partying the whole night. Like, the whole night. I danced. I don't even think I could like hear my voice the next day. Like, I just sang and danced and just had the time of my life. I had an absolute ball. And so not only did I, of course, party in London, I also had a chance to try Indian food, which everyone was raving about the Indian food in London. That was actually my second time trying authentic Indian food, and it did not disappoint. It was so good. I also went to the Lion King play while I was there. So yeah, like London did not, oh, of course, I almost forgot. Go to the Beyonce concert, and that was the highlight of my trip. I would definitely go to London again. I had a great time. I felt safe. I was walking around, trying all of the spots, and I had absolutely no issues there. So I would definitely recommend London. I also think that it's great to do as a solo female traveler. So just to put things into perspective, I know that London can be kind of tricky with the weather. I believe that we traveled Memorial Day weekend. If not, it was really close to Memorial Day weekend, and it did not rain a single day that I was there. So if you guys are planning a trip to London, I would recommend May, because I know that London gets a bad rap for like literally raining all the time. So I actually did not vlog that trip, but if you guys are interested in like a still my itinerary type of series, just comment down below and I'll make a video so that you guys can do the same trip that I did. And so London was the last place that I traveled internationally in 2023. I did not make another international trip until the following year in 2024, where I went to Panama. But I finally just bit the bullet and just said, hey, you know, I really want to go to Panama. I'm struggling on finding somebody to go with. I should just go and just see how it is. And y'all, I know it seems like every trip I'm like, oh my gosh, I had the time of my life. But really, y'all, like, I had such a good time. I had way more fun than I anticipated that I was gonna have. And I did a ton of stuff. So I did salsa classes. I did like this boat tour to Tobago. I did a bar crawl, which I met a lot of friends. And so I still talk to them to this day. One of them is from Ohio, actually. So I don't know if she watches my videos, but she was a lot of fun. I met a couple from Ireland in that trip. I went on a bike tour. Like, I just did so much stuff. And so I actually did make a vlog of that. So if you guys are interested in that trip, you can check that out. I would highly recommend. I have absolutely no complaints about Panama. I felt absolutely safe, even though I was a solo female traveler. Okay guys, so last but not least, although this is not an international place that I went, this is a big highlight of my life. Earlier this year in June of 2024, me and my bestie TT, we went to Alaska. And so Alaska was definitely like a very big highlight of my life. I would rank it in probably one of my top 3 best vacations I have ever taken. And so from the food to like the people to the visuals, right? We jam-packed so much stuff into that trip. I don't know if that's just the time of year that we went. I don't know if it was because I was running, and y'all know I love running, so any vacation that involves some type of running, y'all know I'ma like it. I don't know if it was the company, because like me and TT, we travel really well together. It might have just been a combination of everything, but y'all, that trip was so nice. Alright guys, so that wraps it up for all of the places that I have visited, or at least the highlights. I had a lot of fun filming this video. I'm sure I'm gonna have even more fun editing it when I start looking through all of my videos, all of my pictures. And before I wrap it up, I just wanna give a quick shout out. Thank you so much, Big, for giving me my scratch map. This video would not have been possible without you, and it just really inspired me to take a look back at all of my travels and scratch it off on the map. So yeah, I had a lot of fun filming this. So if you guys have visited any of the same places, maybe even at the same time that I visited them, definitely let me know in the comments down below. If you have any places that you just absolutely adore and you think that I should check out, also let me know. And who knows, maybe I'll check it out in the future. I had so much fun making this video. So as always, I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.